All right, guys, welcome back to episode freaking 90 of Rocket Lab Weekly. That's a lot of episodes. And so far, despite all life distractions, we have had one episode every week. So that's a major achievement in itself.
Closing out on 2 years, man. Can you believe that?
Closing out. Did we? Are we live? I'm getting like a weird message. Is there something wrong with my Twitter?
I think it's active on mine.
Okay, good. Cool. So how's everybody doing this week? And most of all, Scott, why are you here? Shouldn't you be with the crying baby?
I guess not. I mean, soon, this week, I guess, right? So for those who might have missed last week's episode, long story short, the baby's getting fast-tracked, and we were thinking it might arrive last week, and no, so this week it's coming out whether it wants to or not. So I'll be a dad of baby number 2 in like a few days, I guess, really. So it's exciting times.
T-minus 2 days.
Yeah,
I think so.
So did it get delayed with the Rocket Lab like delay, or was it always this week and we just misunderstood?
Had to sync up, right? Couldn't miss it.
Yeah. Your wife is like, I can't push him. It's like too strong upper level winds. Cannot do it. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Baby watch weekly. Exactly. Cool. So and how are you doing, Matt?
Always good. Yeah, I don't have the sleepless nights like you both do, I'm sure, but it's been a fun time in the markets, man. A lot of fun.
Have you reached your milestone, which I'm pretty sure has to do with 7 digits a few times over, but have you reached that milestone?
No, I'm still about 4% away, but
4%.
always coming, always getting closer.
Yeah, very nice. Cool. And I'm also doing good. Had some fun time with the kids, and I'm probably getting my bees tomorrow out of all the weird things that can happen. So officially becoming a beekeeper tomorrow, probably, most likely.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. So let's go through the news this week. I think this one might be a shorter episode because there was really not much happening this week, but I always think it's still better to do the show than not to do. But yeah, we take the first one, and that is that we almost had launch number 4, and it was delayed due to upper level winds. I think this pretty much nukes the chances of a 5th launch this quarter. So we pretty much know it's 4 launches, 10 launches in the first half year. And I mean, that makes it that 20 is still very real, maybe 22, 23 if they can climb in more launches. So yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, I was surprised by this one because I was sure that we were going to see Hawkeye this quarter still. So maybe that's like pushed back. Maybe that's going to be a July launch. But also, I don't know if you guys were following, but when I first saw the mission patch, I thought it would be like you saw the form factor of that satellite and it being a confidential launch. I'm like, well, surely they'll kind of like not make it look exactly like the satellite that everybody in the community is going to be identifying. So
are you referencing this?
Exactly. Yeah. So Tran cracked that open, like not so confidential anymore. And I just thought that was interesting with like all the references and stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe they're having fun with us. Maybe they know that it's like a group activity for us to hunt these down these days. But yeah, hopefully we get to see that launch in the next few days here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're washing their hands. They're like, guys, we kept it confidential. You approved the logo, and the Rocket Lab community is just too good. But want to talk about Echo? I don't know so much about EchoStar. Any of you know? Like, I saw a tweet by Tinfoil Tim that basically apparently this constellation is like how do you call it? Like they're only doing it to keep their minimum number of satellites up so that they can keep a spectrum, and it's very uninspiring, the story behind this. But yeah, do you guys know more than me on this?
Not really. No, I mean, I don't think this is going to be a big, like a recurring customer, just kind of given the time frame. My best estimate is that it was supposed to be on the transporter mission and it maybe missed the deadline, maybe it was late to the factory or something, and just didn't integrate in time. And that because I think they launched or were planning originally to launch on the same day, and then it looks like not including the second launch in this batch of 2, but it looks like they will be launching with transporters again going forward. So I don't think it's a big partnership, but it is cool just to have those extra couple launches under Rocket Lab's belt, and I guess TBD in terms of what to expect going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything either about EchoStar and what they're trying to accomplish, but I agree with Scott. I think it's phenomenal to be able to pivot from, say, a different launch provider to Electron and have that ability to still get to space. Unfortunately, weather didn't participate, but in this particular case, I mean, this just goes to show that the relationship is there for potentially any customer if they fit under the 330 kilogram sort of metric. And with that, if things get delayed or, whatever, these guys are ready to put you on the pad and send you to space. So to me, I think this shows the flexibility of the Electron, and not only that, but Rocket Lab to make sure that people are able to get to space, which I think is phenomenal, because I'm sure as more and more customers come to the market with satellites being more and more pertinent and all that, then I think this is only going to be something that happens more reoccurring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's almost like it's becoming, that I have this thing going to space, and then you Google it, and then it's like, okay, SpaceX can take you at this time for this price, Rocket Lab can take you at this time this price, and then it shows that it's more of a commodity. Like you're not it's very easy to switch based on availability, and that Electron is how do you call it? Like it's very competitive with the Falcon 9 if it fits within certain parameters. So just because a customer is going on a transporter mission, it doesn't mean that they're not going to appear on Electron in the future. So yeah, definitely interesting. Cool. Then here's an interesting one. So there was a tweet about Varta today that I guess this is, don't want to say something stupid, but probably a high-level employee of Varta. Big news from Varta today. We've been granted the first ever FAA re-entry operator license, meaning we are able to fly our fleet without needing a license per mission basis. And we've been shifted to our own in-house satellite bus with our next mission launching soon. So unfortunately, Rocket Lab was the one who has been manufacturing these buses. So we did lose a customer here, but this was kind of coming.
Yeah, and I did see a picture, and I'm kind of a little sorry, I'm going to rewind a quick second, because I'm seeing Space Ghost mention that another one of those Lyra satellites, those EchoStar satellites, is on the Transporter 14, which is the one that I thought it might have slipped from. So I'm not sure why they're launching in such a tight period. It kind of throws my idea of missing that window out the window. But in terms of Varta, I did see that their next, it's confusing because Varta's calling their home-built craft W4, but Rocket Lab's fourth that they've built for Varta that's launching in, I think, the first half of next year, they're also calling that W4. So it's a little bit confusing, but all in all, the Varta's first is actually launching on Transporter 14. I saw that integrated earlier today. So that's cool to see, and it kind of gives us a bit more clarity in terms of like if Varta is hitting that window, and it seems like they have. So it'll be interesting to see if anything, I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Both of the founders seem like they've got their heads on straight. So wishing them all the best. It's unfortunate for Rocket Lab, but cool to see all around,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the only thing I have is, hey, they might have, let's say, come up with their own bus and been able to kind of decouple themselves from Rocket Lab. But to me, it just shows that, hey, they're on their fourth opportunity. If this continues to be viable, they might come back around as a launch partner and be able to send some of these things into space. If I'm aware, I think that these are below 350 kilograms. So because I think, didn't we launch it before on Electron, or is it too big? I don't remember.
I'm not sure about the size, but they were on the Falcon 9 previously. Or I do have 300 kilograms though for the weight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it could be a mass constraint though, but in terms of
yeah,
a volume constraint, I mean, but yeah.
But either way, I mean, you think about it, if it needs, let's say, a Falcon 9 like vehicle, then they could be launching on Neutron. If they have the opportunity, maybe they fly on Electron. But regardless, while they may have left, let's say, the satellite part and satellite component part of the business, they could come back around if they continue. And it seems like the speed at which they're starting to launch these, the cadence rather, is starting to increase. So to me, that's just a positive thing, because I think some people are like, that's going to work, right? But obviously they still see it as something viable for now. So to me, wouldn't be surprised if they come back around as somebody that needs launch in the future and become a customer once again.
Cool. All right. Believe it or not, this is all the Rocket Lab related news this week. It's been a summer week, I guess. Yeah, not much happening in the world, or maybe the Iran news just drowns out everything else. Like everybody's just glued to their TVs. However, there has been some space news still, I think, worth covering. For example, this is a view of Starship 39, the one that was supposed to do the 10th test flight for SpaceX. And I, for myself, I'm getting a little bit like, is everything all right with SpaceX? Because, like the door is not working. Like the last few test flights have all been, either a step back, like that the ship even created a rod even earlier than the last time, or it had the same issue as the time before. Like normally SpaceX is really good at like fixing their mistakes, and now this one is like 10 steps back, because now it's like the ship didn't even manage to launch before it exploded. And I can't help but thinking that we have the same risk for Neutron. It's a new vehicle. We don't know its weaknesses, and I'm happy every time that we have Sir Peter Beck, and I really trust him. That Electron is not looking like this. We just have launch after launch after launch after launch. And hopefully Neutron is also going to go very soon, smooth. But what do you guys think about this explosion and SpaceX in general?
I mean, at this rate, like Neutron might reach orbit before Starship. Like, at the same time, like the kind of more like bearish take, to echo what you're saying, Vince, is like I feel like a broken record for the past 4 or 5 launches. I'm like, if SpaceX are having issues with this, like maybe Rocket Lab will too. And sure, we could look at like the Electron heritage and say, what it's like 94% success rate, but
Falcon 9 heritage.
Exactly. It's like 99 point whatever. So I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Space is hard. And regardless of whether or not people think like, SpaceX is doing this and Rocket Lab's doing that, at the end of the day, space is hard, and trying to increase cadence is hard. And I know that they're trialing a bunch of different things as well. And that's the thing that I think may help. And I don't have the clip offhand, but I think it was like Everyday Astronaut had a great conversation with Elon about how they'll be building some of these starships and some of these larger boosters to trial different risks. So what might end up happening is they might have like, if you build something this way, it might solve a 1 in 100 risk. Or if you build it that way, it might solve a 1 in 200 risk. So they might be trialing different small things. And with increasing cadence, it might just be something that is inevitably, inappropriate with the design and not necessarily engineered appropriately. Or it could be the fact that they are testing different build designs for different ways to make sure when they get to building 100 or number 200, they've solved all the potential risks and actually maximize the true potential of design. At this point, I would probably say I'd agree more with Scott with respect to, the design might just be somewhat like tough at the moment, and whether or not it actually gets there. But I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic. I haven't seen a lot of the testing videos for SpaceX as I have for Rocket Lab. Granted, I haven't seen a fully integrated test for the Neutron, but from what I've seen from stage 1, stage 2, it all seems like they're taking their time. They're making sure that they're 94, 95%, as Peter liked to say, certain before they put it on the pad, because you can never get that final 6%. There's always some residual uncertainty with everything that we do. But I think that this is beneficial, and I know I'm running on a tangent here, but it goes to show you that there needs to be multiple people, multiple companies really progressing into the frontiers of space, because at any moment, something can happen like this. And now you have the ability to rely on, say, a Rocket Lab or ULA or somebody else, right? And it's not to say that SpaceX is going to drop out of the race or anything like that. I think they have more than sufficient income now with Starlink to be able to provide the ability to try again. But it just goes to show you that there's needs to be testing, appropriate testing. There needs to be appropriate regulation. There needs to be appropriate, competition to make sure that we don't miss certain things, right? And at the end of the day, the way that I look at this is potentially people's lives are at risk every time you think about it. Although Neutron isn't being designed for meat movement and meat transport, eventually, with the way that things are going with Boeing and many of the other competitors out there, it could very well be in that conversation within the next 5 to 10 years. And so that's the way I always like to look at it is, would I want to put a person on this and what kind of risk? Because that's obviously different, blowing up $100 million worth of material, people will kind of shrug their shoulders, but to have like a Challenger 13 sort of incident where you're really taking people's lives unintentionally, that sticks with a organization forever. And the hope is that we don't ever end up in that situation. We should always be planning for mitigating those sorts of human life-taking risks. Sorry, very grim, but
yeah, it's true nonetheless. Okay, cool. I also just want to say, so Elon Musk reported that basically this explosion happened because of a nitrogen tank that failed at below its own advertised pressure level. And it's the first time that, as far as I understood, that SpaceX has seen anything like this. So it was like, it seems to be a complete random, like a tried and tested part that, should work under this pressure easy, and it still failed. Which again, space is hard.
Space is hard, man. I mean, you think about it, it's like if you try to speed something up just slightly, I mean, a lot of this is like swirl welding and, all that. It's like, is that part of the problem? Where did it explode? Was it just the material itself was unfortunately, were they trying to make it thinner than normal? Probably not. But in this particular case, I mean, who knows? And it's an unfortunate event. Hopefully they remediate the problem and it never happens again.
Yeah. All right. And then the next bit of space news that I have is from Canada. So apparently Nord Space, which is a Canadian rocket startup, has done their hot fire engine test. And now they're ready to launch, which should happen this summer, which seems very aggressive. And I first heard about this company, I think this year. And I think their timeline is like super insane. But I don't know, maybe Scott, do you know more about this than us?
No, I don't know too much about it. I think it's like, I think it is like direct, like Electron competitor, for lack of a better term. I think it has the same lift capacity, but aside from that, it's kind of like with any up and coming launch company, it's kind of like, let's get one into space and we'll start taking it seriously at this point. Like, so many startups, and like it's like, will you be around in a year, 2 years? Like, so I wish them well, of course, and that'd be cool, especially coming from Canada. Yeah, let's hope they hit that summer date.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say something. I make fun of the Maple Leaf a lot, but I'm actually just kind of jealous. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just a kind of a cool symbol, you know? We got the star, which is, I more badass. Let's be real. But the Maple Leaf is actually pretty cool.
I must admit, on the hockey jerseys, it looks freaking amazing. Like, because you can't make like these jerseys from the US flag, right? Because it's too, yeah. And on the jerseys, like, looks amazing.
Nice. Vince, I did send something in the private chat. Are you able to bring that up?
Let me see.
I had Francisco. He messaged me the other day, and he kind of broke something open. It was kind of a bit bittersweet. So the 5 NMS reaction wheels, he kind of pinned down the customer for that. So it seems like Astroforge is the company, and we're hunting asteroids now, which is really cool. Like,
wait. Is that the 2,000 a year customer, or just this new the new contract that was announced, like where they suddenly out of nowhere added this part, like that's
exactly yeah.
Okay.
So I was kind of wondering, like, is this going to be like with the same scope? Like, is this going to be another 2,000 per year? But I mean, there could be more than just Astroforge, of course, but it seems to be much smaller scale if it is just Astroforge. Cool to see, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I want to bring up one point, and that is one thing worries me, and that is not seeing Neutron on the pad. Because I think if we are not seeing it soon on the pad, the 2025 launch date is starting to be in jeopardy. And I want to, because again, in my head, I think we will start seeing it being assembled on the pad, and then it's assembled. And I think it will be 2 to 3 months of testing and, before we get like a real launch date and we can launch. And obviously, like, if June goes and we don't see Francisco or this other guy on Wallops, what's his name? Starship 24, I think, the Twitter handle, who lives in Wallops, and if we don't start seeing pictures, I'm like, something is up with that timeline. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, similar camp. Like, I don't know. It's going to be exciting to see once it does start arriving, which, I mean, could be any day. And I think that everything's going to happen really fast once it does. But yeah, we're almost done June now, and nothing to see yet.
Mm-hmm. Quick shout out to Miss Melanie. Much appreciated for becoming a member. But I echo the same. I mean, I think we have really, to me, the way I look at this, we have till the second quarter earnings call for some news to really start hitting. And then, I personally am okay if it gets delayed to 2026. I'm not, saying if it doesn't get, done by 2026, I'm out. That's not me. I've always had this as a long-term mindset sort of organization, and I continue to learn, and I know that space is hard. So the fact that they're even to get something on the pad within 5 years is still very impressive to me. I just know how big projects work, and not only that, but it seems like they put a lot of focus on being able to replicate this. So it's not like we're building one, right? It seems like they're designing and then building many. So in that respect, I'm okay with it being delayed slightly, because once it finally does go, if all is working and working well, then to me, I think the cadence will start to move very quickly. But yeah, I do expect to see, and I know a lot of this is happening in series, it's happening in parallel, not in series. So my hope is once you start to see 1 or 2 of them coming green in terms of, hey, it's been certified, it's been validated, it's been qualified, then you start to see a large tranche of them. Hopefully 5 or 6 of them within the matter of a couple weeks. And hopefully we can get it on by the end of 2025. But to be very honest, as a shareholder and somebody that wouldn't mind buying another couple thousand shares, I wouldn't mind if it drifts, for a little bit and allows me to purchase more shares. Unfortunately, at the moment, I think I've reduced the amount of shares that I'm buying, or at least monetary value that I'm buying, on a every other week basis at this point, and I've moved that to other investments because right now, before kind of Neutron, $30 is kind of I don't want to say my limit per se, but it definitely is not as valuable as say the low 20s like we've been fortunate to get over the past couple months. So I've moved that and other companies that I've appreciated very well over the past month or so into newer investments. And so, I think I personally wouldn't mind it drifting back down to the mid to low 20s before we have a liftoff.
Yeah, I think that's fair. My daughter earned some money with selling some flowers in some Swedish tradition, and she lets me handle her portfolio. And I also didn't buy anything because I was like, I really want to buy Rocket Lab, but I feel it's like too high currently. So I'm with you, Matt. But we didn't buy anything else either. So I'm just waiting for a nice dip. And keep in mind, people, that with this neutron delay, it's like, if you look at, for example, how Electron was scaling, it's if you look into a 3-year or 5-year time perspective, it literally doesn't make any change. Like, it's still in 5 years from now, it's still going to be the same amount of neutrons launching. So it's if you get a dip because like neutron is delayed, I think it's a very good buying opportunity.
Thank you, Miss Melanie, for the 10 gifted memberships. It's much appreciated. Very humbling. It's nice to see that we have people like yourself that are so generous to give back, and it's a lot of fun. I was telling Vince before we came on, and Scott, that doing this is something I look forward to every week. So I appreciate you guys giving back.
Yeah, thank you guys. Cool. I don't have any more topics. Again, this was like a super low news week. So I think the audience can ask a few questions if you guys want. And other than that, I think we can call it the show for this week. And so
one last thing worth bringing up, there was I think it was a Form 4 that was filed. Did you guys see that with Peter Beck moving shares around? Did you get a chance to see that?
Yeah, for Venus, right?
Yeah, so it's like or my understanding, I should say, is 5 million of his 50 million shares converted from Series A, which is like for founders and executives, to common stock, which is like what us in the audience, in the community would buy. And that was with the intent to sell between September and December. So I'm wondering almost if that has a bit of a nod towards when we can expect Neutron. Like, we already do have that like September outline for a rocket from Wallops, which is like Neutron, right? So I'm kind of wondering if Peter's like timing that, for lack of a better word, like not a bad time to sell, but something worth having on your radar. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
But would he be like financing the Venus mission then, or?
I think so, like, or contributing for sure.
So he would like sell his own shares, get the money for it, tax it, and then pay it into Rocket Lab on a.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah, among other things, I don't think the full value will go to Venus, but like even if he chips in like a few million, that's like going to do a lot of goodwill for Rocket Lab. Like,
Yeah.
They might be planning others as well, right? So what he might be thinking is it's a tax write-off for him and his trust, and with that, he's also going to be able to benefit the company and benefit the university. And if they don't spend, or they don't have to spend as much money, say self-funding the Venus mission, then in that respect, maybe they can fund other space exploration missions that go beyond Venus or go beyond Mars, and it'll continue to prosper for Rocket Lab. So while it is a tax donation in that respect, I'm assuming, that I don't know, Sir Peter Beck and I don't talk about these things, but my assumption is it's for tax implications, and being able to write that off to the university, I think, will really benefit all parties involved. Otherwise, it just goes to the government, and then who knows what's going to happen with it.
Yeah. Here's an interesting question, guys. So, and if Neutron is on the pad by the summer, what's with the stock price then? I mean, I personally think that the de-risking of the stock price, like Neutron has to be like successfully launched and it has to reach orbit. I don't think the recovery is the same important. I think it's more that we just need to reach orbit. And yeah, that I would be very careful around Rocket Lab or around that launch, because I think if anything happens with the launch, like we might be 20-30% lower the next day. Since we're talking about Rocket Lab, if everything goes fine with the launch, we still might be 20% down the next day. So yeah, but what do you guys think?
I don't know. I could see it, like you said, Vince, swinging drastically in either direction, but I definitely wouldn't want to try shorting a company like that. I mean, there have been times in the past I've never shorted a company. Like when I was looking at Nvidia a while back because I'm like, well, this just looks really rich, and then I think it doubled from there. And like same thing, Palantir. Like there's a case to be made. Like shorting Palantir might be a good idea, but so far they've shown that it's very much not a good idea. And like Tesla, even Rocket Lab as well. So
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't want to short it. But as far as like what happens, I wouldn't be surprised with anything in terms of the share price. What do you guys think?
I don't know.
Okay, then let me ask it this way. Do you think that a successful Neutron launch at 30 is basically priced into the stock? So like the normal, because I see that many people are tweeting that, yeah, like if Neutron is launching, then the stock is going to be $100. And these are the same people where sometimes I want to ask like how, like, could you just give me a calculation on like, you think that the price to sales is going to be, like 80 or the yeah, I mean, we don't have a PE, but yeah. So because I would tend to think that at this point, like a successful Neutron launch is sort of priced in. Like I would not be surprised if we have a successful launch and the stock doesn't go anywhere after, or it's only up a few percent. But what do I know?
I think there will be momentum with Neutron, right? And this is going to be a very qualitative assessment, not quantitative. But I think where the real value is, if we started to see with a lot of companies, is once Rocket Lab begins to be profitable in the first half, if not second half of 2026, assuming that obviously at this point we're starting to delay, right? So what they've stated in the past is 6 months after the first Neutron launch, 2 quarters basically, they'll start to hit some sort of profitability. That being the space components business and Electron itself, and maybe even Haste, are running at a profit, right? And then obviously you have the capital expenditure and drag associated with SG&A, and then you have the money that's going into to fund Neutron, the operating expenditure associated with that. So once you actually start to wind down in the total operating expenditures, and you bring everybody home, and really start to get to business as usual, I anticipate that that's when you'll start to see things, and I think it'll take a couple quarters, right? You'll see initial tranche of people really start to move into the stock after profitability, because that's a point where you'll have investment funds that only can invest in positive EPS sort of stocks, and certain people that also only focus on positive EPS stocks. And then I think it'll take 4 or 5 quarters thereafter before people really start to recognize the broader community. It takes time to perforate through and proliferate throughout the entirety of the investment community that, holy shit, there's a profitable space company out there that's pretty badass. And that's when you start having talks about, is this gonna, I mean, I know people are to talk about the Russell 1000, blah, 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 but if this company actually does get to $40 a share, that puts it in contention to enter the S&P 500 after 4 quarters of profitability. So in that respect, in 2027 timeframe, early 2028 timeframe, is that going to be the conversation as revenue continues to grow? I mean, by that point, we should be starting to aim towards $1 billion in revenues, and hopefully $100 to $200 million per annum in sort of net income. And in that respect, you multiply that out by, a good amount of value. I mean, you're potentially talking about a company that's going to be worth a good bit of money in the future. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it kind of pans out. But I think that's going to be more the catalyst that really brings the stock to be exploding in terms of share price, is the profitability aspect of things. Because I think, as much as we like to think we have as retail investors, and I'm sure there's millions of shares represented through the conversations and the people that watch this every week. I mean, I know Vince himself has, millions of shares. No, I'm just kidding. But I know we all collectively, we've measured it in different forums, and we do hold a substantial position just from the people that are active in the community, several percentage of the company stock, and then potentially even more. But you have the Vanguards of the world, the State Streets of the world, that when they have to enter 4 or 5%. So one institutional investor is probably the equivalent of a lot of the retail investors that are within our reach in the community. So it goes to show you that while we have some power, we don't have a lot of it. And I think once you get to that profitability point, that's where I think the majority of the value of the company is really going to start to shine. And I know that's a very qualitative explanation and statement, but I've seen it happen a multitude of times with Dutch Brothers, Palantir, SoFi, many of these other companies. And I think that's a very telling sign. And I think that's very replicable, and it will be the same for Rocket Lab.
I think I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, of course, it depends. Like, hopefully, because, like if you 10x before, then like you run too much before the event, then you can like sort of cancel it out. So it's because, for example, Tesla, like, yes, it 10x'd after the profitability, but it was going sideways for 6 years, right? So I think that's the only factor that one has to be careful of. And one other point that I want to make is, so I think that Neutron successful is priced in, but what I think is not priced in is the contracts that can follow after, the Golden Dome contracts, and the extra contracts that can come Rocket Lab's way from the Trump-Musk fight that has happened. And I think that is not priced into the stock and can cause, I just haven't had the time. I want to make a video and, do calculations of how much it can move the needle. But yeah, there's a chance that we can get in a few $1 billion contract and one go, out of the blue. And I don't think that is priced in. Okay, cool. I think this is a good point to end. Thanks everyone for being here. This was, as I said, short summer week. I guess, yeah, the summer people are off, or maybe everybody was watching Iran, Israel.
Yeah,
there are some streams up on that for sure.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. My mother-in-law is sick, and she might need to get a special treatment in Israel. And we got in contact with the hospital, because they apparently, like, that hospital is like in the top 10 best hospitals for the thing that she needs, like, on the planet. And yeah, I saw the news and I'm like, fuck, what if the hospital is not there anymore? And then we were slightly like joking about it, that I'm like, yeah, you buy the ticket and then you go and there's like, nothing there. And then we got a call from the hospital, and then she's like, how is your mother-in-law doing? I'm like, thank you, good, but how are you guys doing? And then she was like sort of like, this is not, she's like, yeah, this will be over, like there's no issues with, like, it was so like, and then it's so sad because you realize that this is sort of their way of life. Like, every few years they have a flare up and then they shoot some rockets, and yeah, very interesting people.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay, cool. Thank you again, and see everyone next week.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, ciao.